What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have a lot to discuss with you today. Today, if you are in the Great Plains, Texas, and parts of the Deep South like Arkansas, today is your last day to get prepared for this upcoming snowstorm. It's going to be a pretty powerful one, so you're going to want to take this super seriously. We have the latest information for you guys that we're going to go ahead and share with you. If you are tuning in from the Midwest as well as the Upper South like Tennessee, Kentucky, and other parts like Virginia and West Virginia, you have until Saturday, and in case of the East Coast, on Sunday to prepare for this system, so you have a little bit more time. But if you're in the Great Plains, if you're in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Arkansas, you're going to need to take this super seriously. Today is the last day to prepare. We have winter storm warnings all over much of the United States, so we're going to go ahead and dive right into it right here. Starting off with this, we have the NAM pulled up for you right here. This is the latest, I believe, from the North American model right here. We're going to go ahead and show you that right here. So here's what we got for you guys moving forward. So the system is expected to start getting its act together tonight going into tomorrow morning. The first snow starts to fall in parts of Oklahoma and Texas on tomorrow morning, and then really starts to ramp up as the day goes on through parts of Colorado, New Mexico, and especially in parts of the Great Plains like South Dakota, Nebraska, and Kansas over here. But then as we get to tomorrow night, the system starts to move further to the east and then starts to ramp up and bring impacts to much of the Midwest and much of the Deep South. And I will say, I have been looking at the models. There has been a northward shift in them. So instead of getting a foot of snow for those tuning in from Tennessee, from North Carolina, instead you're going to get a ton of ice from this. But I would arguably say that that's only going to make the impacts worse for you guys. And the reason I say it's going to make the impacts worse for you guys is because with snow, there is some friction to it. You can drive through it, but you cannot drive through ice because of the laws of physics. And then as we move on to Saturday morning, that's when it starts to impact parts of the Midwest like St. Louis, Springfield, Chicago, starts to get the northern aspects of it. Indianapolis starts getting hammered. So this is really transitioned from a deep south storm to an I-70 corridor system over the last, I'd say, 48 hours. And then you have another round of snow really starting to ramp up and really starting to develop on Sunday night in parts of Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas. Matter of fact, they get snow on Friday and Saturday, and then it goes on a lull Saturday night. Then it kind of ramps up again on Sunday morning going through the afternoon right there. However, I will say that in terms of the NAM, this is definitely the furthest to the north, especially in parts of the Mid-Atlantic region and in parts of the Upper South like Kentucky and Tennessee, mainly missing those regions entirely, keeping it with just freezing rain or rain. The rest of the models have forecasted significant icing in those regions right there, so I do want to keep that you guys to keep that in mind moving forward. And then as we get into Sunday, look at this, ladies and gentlemen. It just starts to push further up to the north in parts of Michigan, extreme southern Wisconsin, all throughout Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. You start seeing the back end of the system starting to pull up by Sunday night over here. However, because it goes 84 hours out, this is the furthest it will go. So we don't really have too much to go off of at this current point, but the NAM definitely is showing that for you guys right there. We can also show you the GFS just for context as well. The latest GFS is in for you guys right here. So here's what we got with the GFS. Starts to get its act together on Friday afternoon going into Friday night. The NAM has it starting to get its act together on Friday morning, so that's definitely something to keep in mind and pay attention to. And then as we get to Saturday, right here, you start seeing a lot of snow impacting much of the upper south, like Arkansas, Tennessee, whereas the deep south sees a lot of freezing rain and a lot of sleet from this, which is never a good sign for you guys right here. And then you have a second round of snow that's going to start developing on Sunday night going into the morning. That's really going to ramp up and really impact a lot of these regions in parts of the Midwest. That's actually where you're going to get your biggest snow totals, as a matter of fact. I've been looking at the other modeling I've seen, and that second round of snow on Sunday is definitely where you're going to start seeing your biggest impacts right there, and that's part of the reason why, especially in the Midwest, those snow totals have really ramped up. The GFS also starts out as snow in the mid-Atlantic, Virginia, D.C., Baltimore. It starts out as snow, then it transitions to freezing rain and sleet before it exits out of the United States by Monday afternoon. But if you're in Boston, if you're in New York City, if you're in Philadelphia, Baltimore, D.C., the big 5 cities on the East Coast, you're going to want to take this extremely seriously because this is a system that's going to impact all 5 of the cities right here and all across the East Coast, pretty much from Georgia all the way to Maine. And as we get to Monday morning, it starts to impact more so New England as it's exiting the United States, especially in Boston, in areas like Vermont, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. So you're going to want to take that seriously and pay very close attention to this. But overall, travel is going to be very, very, very disrupted this week. And if you're tuning in from any one of these regions that's going to see a lot of snow or a lot of ice, now is your time to prepare. Now is your time to take this seriously, and we're going to continue to keep you updated as more information and data continues to come out. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and show you some snow accumulations. So starting off with the GFS, let's go ahead and pull this up, and then we'll show the Euro, GEM, GDPS, the NAM, and a few other runs as well. But here's your GFS run for you guys right here. We're also going to show the freezing rain accumulation as well. So as you can see, you have snow starting to ramp up through much of the upper south for that first wave right here. But as we can start to get through Saturday and Sunday, potentially up to a foot of snow is possible in the Ozark regions of Arkansas, at least in the higher peaks of that, from that first wave. And then the second wave kicks in and really starts to bring significant snowfall to a lot of regions right here. This is your total snowfall by Monday nights right here. Look at this according to the GFS. For St. Louis, you're looking at anywhere from 8 to 10 inches of snow. Indianapolis, 10 inches. Columbus could definitely see a big snow total from this, potentially over a foot of snow. Same with Cleveland as well. Michigan as well could see some snowfall as well, mainly about, I'd say, 2 to 5 inches, or at least in the Detroit, Ann Arbor area, whereas the lake effect definitely could kick in and pump those totals up more so in the Upper Peninsula and Western Michigan. In terms of other areas, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and New York definitely are going to be seeing a lot of snow totals. West Virginia up to 2 feet of snow. Same with Kentucky and the higher Appalachian regions in the eastern region over there. And then as we go to Boston, up to 16 inches of snow are possible. Same thing with New York, 12 to 18 inches of snow are very possible with this. Right here. Same with Philadelphia. Like all 5 of those cities are going to be getting hammered by this system. Starting on Saturday night going into Sunday for that region. So you're definitely going to want to pay attention to this. You're definitely going to want to take this seriously, and we're definitely going to keep you updated right here. So that's your GFS. Here's the European. European's definitely more widespread. I would say for Oklahoma, expecting up to a foot, well over a foot of snow from both of those waves right there. And then as we get to St. Louis, up to a foot of snow is possible. Same with Indianapolis, 12 to 16 inches of snow are possible. Columbus and Cleveland could see 12 to 18 inches of snow. So this has turned into a potentially big Midwest snowstorm because before it was expected to stay further to the south. Now it's really going to hammer pretty much, it's going to be a jack of all trades pretty much, where it's going to give the Deep South some extreme freezing rain, it's going to give the Midwest an excessive amount of snow, and it's really going to ramp up and hammer the East Coast of the United States as it's exiting that region. So that's what we're seeing with the European right here. Now there is some snow totals according to the European that could crack up to 2 feet of snow along Lake Erie and Ontario. That's mainly lake effect right there, as well as other areas in the mountains too, so please do take that into consideration. But my goodness, D.C. could see 15 inches of snow, Baltimore 15 inches, Philadelphia up to a foot. So Melissa, if you're watching this, you're definitely going to want to be excited for this. I know you enough to know that you're going to be excited for the snowfall. In terms of New York City, up to 12 to 18 inches of snow, and Boston really gets hammered, potentially 16 to 20 inches of snow, depending on where you are in the Boston metro area, you're going to want to pay very close attention to. But shifting back, let's go ahead and show you the freezing rain accumulation right here. And the freezing rain accumulation is what really concerns me at this current point. I'm also going to show the NAM's freezing rain accumulation as well, since at least they'll give us something to go off of. But anyway, actually no, let's go ahead and do this, and we can just zoom in on this when I'm editing this video. But as you can see, across a lot of areas in Texas, we're potentially seeing well over an inch of ice, especially south of the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex. And then going into Louisiana, you're seeing a half inch of ice to up to well over an inch of ice at least south of Shreveport. And then going into Mississippi, Tennessee, and Georgia right here, the Atlanta metro area, according to the GFS, could potentially see well over 2 inches of ice. Now, granted, that is quite excessive, but it's still something you need to take very seriously because just a quarter of an inch of ice can cause so much havoc for a lot of regions in the Deep South that aren't really prepared for this. A quarter of an inch of ice can shut down a highway. A quarter of an inch of ice could start to knock down power lines, especially those flimsy ones in the country. A quarter of an inch of ice could definitely just, make travel much more hellish, especially for emergency services that are needing to get to those hospitals. But anyway, as we take a look at this, Tennessee, though, gets at least the most widespread ice, and same does North Carolina, according to the GFS. So we're definitely going to want to take that super seriously moving forward. And then as we get to the NAM for you guys right here, the NAM is definitely further up to the north, and it's definitely a bit more concentrated, but my goodness, seeing at least an inch of ice anywhere in this region is very, very concerning to me. Like, I don't think I remember a time where I would sit here and go, "Oh my goodness, we're going to see a lot of ice. That's going to be extremely catastrophic." This is one of those times. And to those tuning into the Deep South who aren't going to be seeing all the snow, trust me when I tell you that getting you would rather get a foot of snow than an inch of ice, because you can't drive on it, like I mentioned earlier in this video. You can't really do much. That downs power lines, and it's way more catastrophic than a foot of snow based on just, the laws of physics and based on the impacts that it's going to leave behind, and especially in a region that is ill prepared for winter weather. So that's something to consider as well. Let's go ahead and show the snow accumulation from the NAM further up to the north, but still producing a ton of snowfall for the Great Plains, potentially up to 20 inches for Kansas, Oklahoma, and in parts of Missouri as well. Up to 18 inches are possible, especially along the Ozark Plateau. In areas around St. Louis, up to a foot of snow is possible. Same with Indianapolis. Chicago's a bit more conservative, more so about 6 inches are possible in that region. But if you're in Ohio, Pennsylvania, you're going to in for a pretty big jackpot of snow. And because this isn't really out to finished yet, you're definitely going to see those snow totals pump up further as the later NAM runs come in. So that's definitely something you're going to want to keep in mind. Now let's go ahead and shift over to NWS stuff for you guys right here. Here's what we got, ladies and gentlemen. Take a look at this. You're seeing winter storm warnings already get issued for, first of all, you have winter storm watches from Arizona all the way to New York. That's the first thing you're noticing right here. Second thing is you have these extreme cold advisories, because on top of that, you have a high pressure system that's going to be bringing extreme cold into the United States. So this is going to be a 1-2 punch for the eastern 2/3 of the United States. So you first start off with your snowfall, and then you have an Arctic blast simultaneously that's going to really drive those temperatures down. So that's something you're going to want to keep in mind, and something you are going to want to consider. So that's what we got going on for you right here in terms of your winter storm watches and winter storm warnings. Go all the way to the East Coast right here, and that's definitely something that you're going to want to pay attention to, and definitely something we're going to continue to monitor here. So that's what we got for your NWS alerts right here. But I do want to pull up a couple of them. I want to pull up the winter storm warning for parts of Oklahoma over here, just to kind of see what the NWS is going for right here. Okay, you guys can't see. Okay, you guys can't see that, so I'm not going to expand upon this too much. But essentially, what we're worried about here is just a jack of all trades type of situation. In fact, that you're seeing winter storm watches as far south as the Houston area is what really concerns me. And this isn't for snow. This is for ice, by the way. Like, if you're tuning in from the Houston area, you're definitely going to want to take this super seriously. I remember the time of the big 2021 Texas snowstorm, where essentially you got a ton of snow. This is going to be a lot of ice potentially for you guys. So definitely take this seriously. And you don't need a particular like 6 inches of snow to issue winter storm watches down there. I've been down there. I've lived down there. I know enough of that. But essentially, that's just me rambling on at this point. Let's go ahead and move on to our Arctic cold temperatures. So let's go ahead and pull up the European. Let's go ahead and pull up the temperature for you guys right here. Here is what we have for the Euro moving forward. So you have this big Arctic blast starting to move through tonight, actually, and this afternoon. You start seeing this big high pressure system pushing into the United States right here, really going to drive those temperatures down across a lot of these regions, especially the Midwest and even in much of the Great Plains as far south as Texas going into Friday night. But look at these temperatures. You're looking at single-digit temperatures before snow even starts in parts of the Midwest. And for those wondering how snowfall is possible in this cold of a temperature range, the Gulf region, because of the storm's proximity to the Gulf region, it's definitely going to close the gap and close that dry air gap between the temperature and the dew point, because it's pretty much you're going to see huge Gulf moisture infusion that's going to generate enough moisture to really pump up those snow totals. So the snow you're going to get is not going to be good packing snow. It's not going to be good snowman snow, but it is going to be good snow for sledding, and it's going to be good snow just just a very dry snow generally. It's not going to be terribly heavy, which is good news, because you know that infamous heart attack snow. I'm very familiar with that, but ultimately what you have going on is you have this big blast moving through. The Gulf moisture is going to help supplement a huge amount of snowfall with that, and by the time we get to Sunday night around, this is what we got. Temperatures are going to be extremely cold across the Midwest, across the South. Temperatures go all the way to the freezing line, all the way to the Gulf. That's how expansive this is, and this is just the start of it right here, folks, because as time goes to the east, but look at this. Temperature as far south as Tampa Bay in Florida. The entire Gulf Coast is below freezing, ladies and gentlemen, and this is by Tuesday morning. So this is just going to show you how expansive this is. So on top of the extreme amount of snowfall that we're going to see, we're also going to be seeing a significant Arctic blast as well. This is kind of your worst case scenario in terms of just impacts, because you're already getting a big snowstorm, but now you're getting an Arctic blast, and that snow is going to stay there for a pretty significant amount of time, and that's definitely something that you're going to want to pay attention to moving forward. Then as time starts to go on, it does start to weaken a little bit. At least in parts of the deep south, you're definitely going to start seeing warmer temperatures. But this cold air stays with the in the Midwest and New England, not just for the system, but it stays there for the next at least 10 days. Like this is not this, and then by the time we get to early February, it finally does start to warm up a little bit more. But it takes days for the temperatures to start warming up enough to really get out of this Arctic blast. So if you're in the Midwest, you're going to need to bundle up the next couple of weeks, because after this big snow system, we're going to be extremely cold. That is going to limit big snowstorms, at least for the time being, other than Alberta Clippers, unless there's a big trough that starts to develop through that. But ultimately, you have your big snowstorm coming in the next day, or starting the next day or so, and then you have 2 weeks of cold for the Midwest, the East Coast, New England, the Mid-Atlantic, and a lot of other regions as well, especially in the Great Plains. So you're going to want to prepare for that very quickly, and we're going to continue to keep you updated on that here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. For those of you tuning in from the DC region, like DC region, like Virginia, Maryland, I have a friend of mine who started his YouTube career, who's doing some videos on that for your region. The link to his channel will be in the description down below. It's Matt. It's my very close friend. Some of you guys may know him. Some of you guys may not. He's been in a couple of my videos, and a couple of my streams. But his channel please go subscribe to him. The link to his channel is in the description down below. But with that being said, we are going to go ahead and close the video out right here. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. The goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. If you'd like to help out, hang out, or ask us questions, feel free to join the Storms United Discord server. The link to that is in the end screen. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.